we're moving into our comparative response. So, some sentence frames to use for comparatives. We can see here, they're all comparing the text, right? Whilst text A also features something, it presents a markedly different view of something else. For a difference. Similarly, text B explores the notion of, however, a difference, and then we state a difference. These are amazing to use. Use these in your own writing, especially if you struggle with comparative writing. But what can we see that they're doing really, really well and really nicely? We can see that all of these sentence frames have a similarity in them, and then they go on straight away to bring in a difference. So if this was in our body paragraph, we've built up all of this evidence from both texts, and we've discussed all of this evidence to lead into a statement about a similarity. But we have to continue on from there and identify the nuances or the small differences between the texts that are going to lead us into that complex analysis and fulfill also the comparative aspect of the task. So you shouldn't be finding some kind of random differences. You should be finding differences directly from a similarity that you've identified. And obviously this isn't an easy task. I never said it was easy. I said it was difficult. But we literally find distinctions within our similarities. So we find the small nuances in how a message is expressed, a similar message is expressed amongst both texts or in the actual message itself. So how do we structure? You might be doing a different structure in school. If it works for you, it works. This is a really good structure to follow for comparatives. Topic sentences, both texts do something. Some kind of similarity, right? Then we'll have our first sub idea. This is where we do the evidence and analysis process for both texts back and forth, text 1 and text 2. And then we bring it back to a link, which is going to be a transition between the two sub ideas. This is where we say, while similarly, the text explore the notion of something. However, here is this small difference, and that's our link. Here is this difference in message. And then that's leading into discussion of our sub idea to our difference. And here again, we use evidence and analysis of both texts to prove that. You don't have to switch between text 1 to text 2 every single time you introduce some evidence and analyze it. You can introduce a couple of pieces of evidence from one text, and then switch to talking about the other text and also introduce a couple of pieces of evidence there and analyze them. To make it easier for yourself and smoother for yourself, I do recommend you discuss one text for a while before you move on to the next. So you can see how that structure is done really well and really easily in this table. And then in our concluding sentence, we also have a views and value statement, but it's comparing the author's statements from the two texts. So it will identify what's similar and what's different in their message of views and values. And don't forget that this is also comparative aspect, so there should be a similarity and a difference in your views and values statement. Running through structure. It's not easy, guys, but introduction. This is similar to text response. We have context sentences that offer broad statements about the worlds of both texts or the views and values of authors or both. Just make sure it's not more than a couple of sentences or your flow will be impaired. They don't like to see too much irrelevant contextual information in our intros. So for example, the unanimously parochial communities depicted in Middle is the crucible and Ham's the dressmaker, equally contend with societal conflict and victimization. That's as simple as we need it to be. Again, trying to make sure this relates to our prompt. Here it appears that our prompt has to do with victimization and societal conflict or similar. Then we have the same thing, signposting ideas. Our contentions, answering the prompt for both our texts. And also with the differences highlighted in their message and how they answer the prompt. For example, Despite such disarray, both Miller and Brooks explore the notion of love as complex and multifaceted in the face of mass paranoia. Notably, the distinction between love and lust is considered in the face of the mass paranoia, as marital relationships serve in contrast to those founded from desire. So, this is our contention. And the first sentence identified the similarities amongst both texts that answer the prompt, and then the second sentence moved into the differences. We can see that really put into practice here. And you can follow the same structure: contention, similarity, contention, difference. And then a final sentence about views and values. Ultimately, what are the authors saying about the real world? Now, you can still have a distinction in here as well if you would like, but in this statement, you can assume that they both have a similar message with regards to views and values. For example, in this way, the authors condemn the exploitation and ostracism of the inherently disadvantaged. And it can just be simple like that. Your introduction will likely be just a little bit longer for a comparative than it is for a text response, and that's okay. And here we have a sample introduction context sentence structure that you can use, a sentence frame for yourself if you'd like. Now, body paragraph structure, we looked at a little bit of a breakdown, I ran us through it, but we still need a topic sentence that is ideas based, no characters mentioned, and it addresses both texts. For example, Brooks and Miller offer differing depictions of conjugal married relationships, yet both are unanimous in that they are rendered with guilt. So we identify the difference without elaborating on it whatsoever. In the actual body paragraph, we will discuss how they are different, but we do identify the similarity, what is similar within the message. And then we go into our sub-arguments. So we use the crucible as an example, doing our what, how, why, evidence and analysis for a few pieces of evidence. When we're finished with the crucible, we're going to move into the dressmaker and do the same thing. Few pieces of evidence and analysis, couple is sufficient. Like 2 pieces of evidence is absolutely sufficient. And then we link them in, we say, therefore, here's the similarity between married relationships, but also there is this difference. And we identify what the difference is with that link. We lead into our second sub-argument, and this is where we discuss those distinctions in the message. And then eventually, we'll bring that back to views and values once we're finished. I really recommend using this structure, and it's absolutely fine if you start off with a similarity and then lead into a nuanced difference every single time you write a body paragraph. I personally use this structure myself during year 12, and I found it very easy, and I definitely found it to be the most concise. Comparatives take so long, guys. The word count, is much more significant for them to have a complete piece, and you want to be able to be as concise as possible while still satisfying the comparative requirements of the task. Then our conclusion, we'll have again a summary of the topic idea of the essay, so sort of a contention or overarching statement that we've restated and elaborated on. For example, in their depiction of communities grappling with the upheaval of social and political structures and the complexities of love are considered by both authors. Similarly, draw on the similarity first, and then draw on the differences in your next 1 to 2 sentences, the main differences that you've identified. So that will be our quick summary. Then we'll link back into views and values, and we want to identify the differences, if there are any, in the views and values statements of the authors. So try again, everything is similarities and differences, guys. That's only the really thing that's different from text response. For example, Brooks and Miller ultimately present love that is unselfish and altruistic as prevailing despite the conflict. So this is our similarity idea in our views and values message. But then say we want to go into a difference, right? We might talk about, however, the conflicts are different in text A compared to text B as blah, blah, blah. So if you can identify differences even in the views and values link, that will boost your essay. So you should absolutely do it if you can find some kind of distinction in the overall message. Again, same questions to ask ourselves as with text response.